Here comes the money.
Here we go.
Someone who may or may not be running WWE in the future, Shane McMahon. He showed back up at the Rumble. Hooray.
Oh, man, people love Shane.
Yeah, apparently. I don't know. So Dave Meltzer, the Wrestling Observer, is reporting that he's not just here for the Rumble or just wasn't there for the Rumble. He's sticking around through WrestleMania at least. Yes. Dave reports that Shane will have a match at Elimination Chamber and WrestleMania 38, though Dave notes that Shane's role at WrestleMania hasn't been decided upon quite yet, saying that Shane, quote, has a match on the books, but it was said to have not been finalized a few days ago, which is evidently why they did no angle with him at the Rumble. And then PW Insider adds that Shane, quote, will be appearing regularly on the Raw brand going forward, and he will be a heel.
Ooh, bad guy Shane. You know, bad guy Shane is the one who who gave us a baked potato face with Mrs. Dad. That was good stuff. Yeah. Oh, you know what's going to suck? Mania is going to be Edge versus Shane. You thought you were going to get Edge versus AJ Styles? You're wrong. We made it up. That's fiction. It happened in the Northeast somewhere. Yeah, that's happening, dude. Shane versus Edge. Maybe I'm hoping that I'm just saying it and it doesn't happen. I'm saying the worst case scenario and it doesn't.
So when
happen.
I first saw this, and I saw people on Twitter mention this too, that it'd be Shane versus Austin Theory.
Yeah. That makes so much. That makes too much sense.
I know.
Makes too much
Shane
sense.
versus Edge. Please no.
Yeah.
Please no.
Yeah. Austin Theory. That's a good match for Austin Theory. You got Vince in there. Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah, but isn't Austin Theory a bad guy?
Kind of.
I mean, it doesn't really matter at that point, but Shane would have to be a good guy for that really to work best.
Probably.
Well, maybe the fact that it's not finalized, they'll listen to us. They'll flip on whatever this show, Going In Raw is, I guess it's called. And they'll be like,
yeah, that's what it's called.
Hey, let's do that instead. People love Shane. Why are you going to make him a bad guy?
I don't know if people really love Shane. I think people get excited when his music plays and he comes back, and then he here's the problem with Shane. Shane's creative far too often. It takes up the whole show. You've seen this several times.
Yeah.
Especially the Kevin Owens feud. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That story just sucked up all the energy of SmackDown was on. When he and AJ were feuding. Yeah, the Mania match was all right, but that story just kind of sucked all the energy out of the show. Just
You know what they could do? What if Vince looks at Austin Theory, he's like, you need to be like, this is his way of, he's sort of a bad guy now. Make him a good guy by having Shane, he's like, hey, I don't like that, Vince is taking you under his wing the way he never took me under the wing, and he like lays out Austin Theory. So you get like bad Shane and Vince, which is easy to boo, against Austin Theory, who's a good guy, and you really, have Vince put him through the ringer, I guess, as it were. That could work. That could work.
Yeah, that could work. That could work.
And we'll get, it's easy. We'll get like at least an hour of that content every week on Raw. Like a solid hour of it.
Sucking the entire energy out of the whole
taken
show.
From everybody else who just sits in catering. Apollo Crews, nothing but talent sitting in catering. It wasn't even at the Rumble.
Here comes the money.
Here we go.
Yesterday's show, Larson, we talked about reports that Shane McMahon, Shane O'Mac himself, here comes the money. He's going to be sticking around through WrestleMania following his return at the Royal Rumble. On a recent Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer mentioned that he had heard that WWE had a interesting vision for his WrestleMania match. What was that vision?
So these transcripts come to us from Wrestle Talk. This is what Dave had to say. Quote, Shane McMahon was going to be in the chamber and set up a feud with Seth Rollins for WrestleMania. I don't know if that was going to be for the WWE Championship, or sorry, it was going to be the WWE Championship match. But it's obviously, whether it is or it isn't, that was changed. So I don't know how that relates to Shane McMahon at WrestleMania, but this was supposed to be the step to it.
Here comes the money.
Here we go.
You know who doesn't get the wonderful birthday wish from his own dad every year?
Shane McMahon.
Yeah, we're going to talk about him. What's going on with Shane O'Mac? He got released? What's going on here?
So, yeah, he's been in the news quite a bit since his return to the Rumble this weekend. It's been reported over the last few days that he's had a bunch of backstage heat following his work producing the Men's Rumble, that he was slated to have matches at both Elimination Chamber and WrestleMania, and that he was set to feud with either Seth Rollins or Bobby Lashley, or maybe both. I don't know. But today, this saga took a really weird turn because it appears he has been let go by WWE. So, for a variety of reasons, we don't typically talk about ringside news here on the show as a source. We just don't.
Yeah.
But they were the first to report that Shane had a bunch of backstage heat following the Rumble. Because he was like focusing so much on himself and his role in the match, making a bunch of changes last minute amongst a bunch of other things. And they reported today the following, quote, "There is a lot going on with Shane McMahon. He is now off Raw, Elimination Chamber, and WrestleMania. A tenured source within the company told us that Vince McMahon is also, quote, quietly using the term let go to describe the situation. Shane McMahon has been let go." They continue. Vince had no choice. Shane created chaos, had everyone in an uproar, pissed off everyone in the Rumble, openly buried other producers, and was changing things that Vince wanted. Vince had no other choice but to send him home. So the ever-reliable Sean Ross Sapp looked into this report and tweeted, quote, "Regarding the Shane McMahon report of being quietly let go from WWE by Ringside News, I've yet to be able to get it confirmed, but was told by another source it's likely true. Ringside News has been accurate with their report surrounding him, Shane, that I've heard thus far. Though he wasn't listed as a producer internally for the Royal Rumble, he helped put the match together, which he's done before in the past. We're told he was integral in a lot of the changes in a match that was already heavily changing as is. Andrew Zarian offered up some potential context as to why Shane may have been let go. Quote, "Few notes from source regarding Shane of the Rumble. There are numerous changes to what number Bad Bunny would be. This was a cause for concern, and people within WWE were upset. WWE doesn't want to come off as negatively with such a major outside superstar." And then after those reports and tweets, Dave Meltzer tweeted, quote, "Just a confirmation that Shane McMahon is out of WWE, more to come," but then noted on Wrestling Observer's website about this particular story that it's, quote, "unknown whether his talent deal was terminated or if his plans for him the next 2 months were simply dropped."
Well, I mean, shocking. Number one, Ringside News, not exactly the most credible site in the world, getting something right. That's cool. Good for them. But also, yeah, Shane waking up one morning, I'm going to go down to the Royal Rumble, the second biggest event of the year. I'm going to go down there and I'm going to fuck it up.
It's like he decided, I'm going to make this Kendall Roy's birthday party, you know?
yeah, right.
We've made the
here's the birthing canal.
Yes, we made the comparison between Succession and the dynamic seemingly within the McMahon family a lot.
Yeah.
This seemed like a very Kendall Roy moment for Shane McMahon, where he's going in there. It's all about me, rubbing everybody the wrong way, seemingly. And, you know, it's one thing apparently to rub everybody in the locker room the wrong way. But if you potentially upset a major music superstar in Bad Bunny, or if WWE felt that was a risk, then I guess, according to this, Vince thought, can't have that. Gotta let you go.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if that was the straw that broke the proverbial back, or if it was just everything. If he walks in and Vince is like, "Oh, Shane versus Seth, I don't like that. That's not good. Nobody likes that. That's not good." Wait, is this Freedom Cammy? Is this true in our chats? Is PW Insider is now reporting that Shane was pushing for a match with Austin Theory at WrestleMania? You want to double check that one? That was our idea. That was our idea. It was a very good one too.
It made the most sense.
Yeah, bring him back for that match. That actually sounds like a cool idea. Damn it. Yeah, it's a really weird situation because obviously Vince has been very high on his own son for decades now. He brought him back, I don't know, 4 years ago or 5 years ago to fight The Undertaker.
So this is what PW Insider has to say. It says, yesterday, there were creative plans for McMahon to be a regular on Raw as a heel leading into WrestleMania. McMahon had been pushing to work Austin Theory at Mania with the idea playing out of Theory's involvement with Vince, but that wasn't locked 100% in place. There were other forces pushing for Shane versus Seth at Mania. There had been a planned sequence at one point to set up Rollins versus Shane as a feud in the Men's Rumble match, but as part of all the changes leading into the show, Rollins was pulled from the Rumble match. This afternoon, Shane was internally pulled from the Raw roster, and the word making the rounds was that the direction has changed.
Now, the small caveat with PW Insider, the Rumble brings with it all sorts of news and stuff that's coming out. And I think PW Insider is the ones that had Riddle as having been listed as a winner at some point, and Sean Ross Sapp was like, nah, that's not what I heard. So,
so they have this other bit here too. Is quote, "It was said that Shane was obviously frustrated the day of the show, and that some believed that came from his ideas being shot down by Vince McMahon. The talk was he was upset that he wasn't being allowed to do what he wanted, and that he was greatly preoccupied by his own role in the Rumble."
Oh man, wow. According to Wrestling News Now, Roman Reigns has been suspended.
For
I don't have to click on the video. It's Wrestling News
right.
Now. I want to let them get in on this Royal Rumble action. Everybody's jumping into it now.
I guess so. I mean,
it's nuts because it's Shane. Like it's Vince's kid. He's always featured. Whenever he's around, he's featured in a prominent way. He had a Kevin Owens match. He had like a Kevin Owens Hell in a Cell match.
Yeah, this Undertaker, his return match.
I know, the Undertaker. I mentioned that. Yeah, the guy is always featured. Like, honestly, the next logical step is a WWE title match, to be honest with you. It'd be perfect long-term booking, but nobody wants to see it.
No, nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to see that, especially when you have roster members who are working every day on TV, who probably deserve those spots right over Shane. Shane, if you do Shane, like if Shane's like a celebrity guy who either wrestles celebrity or is said celebrity and has the one-off feud here and there outside the title picture, fine. Sometimes Shane can still put on somewhat enjoyable matches. That's okay.
Yeah, he had a good one with AJ at WrestleMania 33.
Yeah, but the problem is, like we mentioned, I think yesterday, the day before, whenever he's involved in a major storyline, it seems to act as like a creative black hole for that show and just sucks up everything else. And it kind of takes the energy out of the show. And I really point to the Kevin Owens Shane feud because that just completely obliterated. Like SmackDown was pretty good until that feud started to take over the show, and then SmackDown was bad.
Honestly, my bigger issue, because that's totally legit one, because that's when SmackDown started being crap, and before that was good. My biggest issue with Shane has always been back in the late 90s and aughts. It made sense because he was the crazy rich kid, or he was the rich kid with arrogance, and he would do crazy shit. That was just his shtick, right? And then he grew up, and now I'm just supposed to understand that he's not crazy dude anymore. Although he does stunts, he totally does stunts. But he's supposed to be able to hang with AJ Styles as a wrestler. Shane is never around, and he shows up, and he's supposed to hang with AJ Styles as a wrestler.
Well, at the Rumble, he eliminated Kevin Owens.
Yeah,
he was trading strikes with Matt Riddle.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
It didn't. It was weird. And that's always been. I know, look, the guy can put on good matches or whatever, but it's always been with wrestling, you have to check your brain at the door a little bit. You got to suspend your disbelief, as they like to say.
That only goes so far.
It only goes so far. I like to think that these dudes who are in there, the guys and gals who are in there, they're training every day. They're staying in peak fitness. Your cardio is great. Or you've got the big monsters like a Moss, for example, who doesn't need to do that because of his stature. Shane's none of that. He's an old, super sweaty guy who it's not believable. At a certain point, it's not believable, and not in the kind of way where it's fun, where it's, like Chris Brooks fighting a blow-up doll. That's fun. That's funny because that's what DDT Pro is. This is not that. This is I'm supposed to believe that this is I like my fake fighting to at least have, when it's appropriate, a semblance of reality or realism.
Well, here's the thing. You have this world that WWE's created, and that world must operate under its own internal rules.
Yeah.
And we see these internal rules, and then when they do something that seemingly violates those internal rules, which happens fairly regularly in WWE, that's why it can be a frustrating watch.
Yeah.
There's a disconnect there. And not every wrestling promotion is perfect in that regard. Heck, most TV shows and movies aren't perfect in that regard.
Right, yeah.
But if you get it right more often than not, I'll buy into it.
Yeah.
If you get it wrong too often, it's frustrating.
Yeah. And that's just us saying why we don't want Shane around. It is surprising. This whole thing is pretty surprising because Shane is always featured in a major way whenever he's around. So
yeah, I woke up to this I woke up to some chatter about this. I saw it on Twitter. I'm like, what is this all about?
Yeah, right.
And looked it up, and I thought, well, that's a weird turn. I didn't expect that to happen.
Yeah, the idea like him being released, especially like one day before we are possibly expecting some releases, given that there has been a pattern with the WWE in their quarterly earnings
financial calls. Yes.
Right, coinciding with releases. They do that on the same day. So tomorrow, Friday, we're sort of hoping that this trend doesn't keep up. But yeah, like this happening a day before that, also just weird, just bizarre. The entire thing, him just showing up in the Rumble, sort of putting his stamp on it, and then now disappearing.
Money talk.
Here comes the money.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Stone Cold Steve Austin impersonator Phil McDonald, here to tell you to go support Going In Raw and Friendo Club at patreon.com/Steven Larson. They got bonus episodes, ad-free audio, a weekly newsletter rounding up the week in wrestling news, and a bunch more. Patreon.com/Steven Larson. Go support or get hit with a stunner.